Yo, so I'm gonna be piggybacking off of my last video talking about you not being free, and more specifically we're gonna talk about guns and a lot of conservative people here in America who are so passionate about the amount of guns that they have, which I also don't really get. I mean, if you have people who can get over and help you, and you have more people to carry the guns, I suppose that could be good. But any kind of organized resistance can be taken out pretty easily through, like, with the military, or just even police squads and SWAT teams and things like that. So my biggest gripe about people who in modern day talk about why guns are so important, yes, back in the day, 1700s, early 1800s, it was probably a lot easier, or well, I wouldn't say easier to rise up against the government, but their technology wasn't as crazy as it is now with drones and things like that and tanks. But the biggest gripe that I have with this whole idea of guns equal freedom is, well, for one, like I just said, the technology of your military and the capability of your military, the money that they have, and the fact that they can demonize you through the media as, like, communist or some kind of threat to democracy, whatever you want it. If you are the resistance, they can paint you in any kind of picture that they want to because of the amount of money and power that they have. And because of this money and power, even if they didn't use those kind of means to get the general populace against you, even if it was only half the population was against you, they still have this, they have a lot of money, they have technology, like I said, they have tanks, drones, they have people who are far better skilled than you because of the military that they have, things like this, of this nature, and they have tactical squads and things like that too that can come in and completely wipe out any kind of resistance that you may be putting up towards the government. So also the reason why people won't rise up and why having the freedom to own a firearm doesn't really help with anything is because you have family. All the people out here who are talking about this and saying that the reason why they have freedom is because they are able to own firearms, it doesn't matter, because you have a family, most likely, of some sort, whether it's direct or not. And especially if you have a direct family, unless you completely just don't care about them or your own life, you're not going to risk that, and you're going to be there to protect your family. You're not going to go out in an organized group and get slaughtered by the military. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And even if you decided that it was worth it, now you're leaving behind your wife and kids, for example. Like if a man was to do this, you're leaving behind your wife and kids, and if it does come to this point, likely America is already in a really poor state. And if America is really already in a really poor state like this, and in this situation where people are rising up, most likely you abandoning your family, as in getting slaughtered by the military, is not necessarily going to make your situation better at all, at least for your wife and kids when you're gone. But the whole thing about it is, number one, are you willing to sacrifice yourself, and are you willing to die for this cause? And if you are, which a lot of people I feel like will not be willing to do that, and they will not be as in the moment, they won't be as excited to do this as they might think that they would be in normal day life and when they talk about these things. And number two, are you willing to leave your kids and family behind on top of that? Because you don't only have yourself to worry about, right? You have your friends, your family. Maybe you're a single person and you don't have that many friends, but you still have your parents or your mom or whoever, or maybe you're actually taking care of someone, or you have someone who kind of relies on you like a grandparent. that you help out with, even if it is just every now and then? Are you willing to sacrifice all that? And maybe to you it would be worth it, but just understand that there are repercussions for that. So, but yeah, I guess getting back to the whole organization thing, the government will always have a military at their disposal that is much more organized than you as well. So you have to think about that. Maybe you are someone who has a better organization of people around you, and you have like neighbors and things like that that you speak with on this topic, and you guys have already discussed things like this, and you do have like a meeting point where you guys will all get together, and maybe some of you are ex-military and things of that nature, but how many of you are in your neighborhood and think like this, and how many people throughout America and the other neighborhoods around you are also thinking the same way and are prepared like you are? Not only on top of that, depending on what the situation is, you also have to think about your food and your water and all that you would need in order to survive through a situation like this. And let's say, for example, well, we've kind of already established that you probably won't have even 50%, like nowhere near 50% that are willing to disobey the government in any kind of fashion, right? Even if it's just like a very weak fashion, like I did, where I didn't get a pokey poke in my arm recently for 2020, and I didn't really want to be involved in anything that like required me to, you know, put on a mask and things of that nature. But how many of those people that you know are gonna then be willing to sacrifice themselves? And out of those people, which is going to be a very small number that are going to be willing to be able to sacrifice themselves for a cause on our own soil against our own government, are willing to leave their family on top of it as well too. So when you bring all of that into perspective, I would be surprised if even like 5% of the US population, it's probably not even anywhere, it's probably like half of that, if that, would even be willing to rise up against the government. And then you guys all have to get organized, and then who's going to be the one to organize that whole resistance, right? So let's say you got 5% of the population, and you guys all got together in one spot. Who's to say that that person is correctly leading you, first off, and isn't a part of the government themselves, right? And I know this is kind of getting into a little bit of a weird spot, but let's say you guys actually did get together somewhere. Where are you going to fight? I mean, you might do more like guerrilla tactic where you just kind of hit buildings here and there. But there's politicians all over the United States, and there's people who are behind those politicians who are the ones that are actually controlling what happens in your country, and in particular here in America. And the big corporations are the ones who are buying out these politicians. So even if you were able to manage hitting a bunch of politicians around your country and things like that, which you also have to understand that they're all on the same team, whether they are Republican or Democrat also, and they are really good at acting. So a lot of these people, like I said, really good at acting. Just the amount of things that would need to fall into place and happen in order for you to be organized enough to do something like this is quite extraordinary. And no amount of pieces of metal, weapons that are in your safe are going to save you from this. And it's funny too, because these people, they spend all this money on guns and things like that, and then they hardly even use them. So not only do they not really have that much training with them, but they also have them just in case. And it's even more ironic because probably a lot of their kids don't even really care about the guns that much, at least the amount that they have. But it is their money, right? So they're able to they're able to decide what they want to buy with their money anyways. But it's just funny, this sort of self-reliance illusion that they have, and how the guns will protect them, because really at the end of the day, yeah, they quite certainly won't. So yeah, just kind of think about that.